What's up there, everybody? It's Carpo, a random stranger on the internet to many of you, and especially if you're coming across this video pertaining to Afghanistan and the situation over there right now. The instant thought a lot of people have is who is this guy to have any opinion on military or what's going on overseas, and you would be absolutely correct. I'm no one. The only thing I have as a connection to the military is my family's military service, and my father, the fact that he, I believe, was exposed to Agent Orange, which is what caused his carcinoma. So I have a natural bias against military operations in other countries because after watching what happened in Vietnam and learning the history, I realized that it was a completely pointless war and solved nothing. And I grew up knowing that we lost, but nobody ever would admit it at that point. So, naturally, when we went into Afghanistan, my first thought was it's going to end up the same way. I recall having a conversation with a friend at the bar saying, when the first bombs dropped on Iraq, for example, I said, this is going to be a long war. And he said, no, we'll be out of there in a few weeks. I said, no, this will be the next Vietnam. I'll never forget it. And 20 years later, as we've flooded through the Middle East, everyone seems to have completely different opinions on why we're there every year and what we're going to do about it. Now, the Republicans last year were just adamant about getting out of the Middle East, get our troops home, get out of Afghanistan. Then Biden's in office, and the minute it happens, it's not a celebration of getting troops out or getting us out. It's a complaint about how it was done and how many people were left behind. Now, when I talked with my friend about this, I, at the first, rolled my eyes at the idea that Biden was to blame. But upon further analysis over the past few days, I realized that he had completely blundered the pullout of that. However, I still believe that no matter how much time you'd taken, no matter how well you'd prepared, you would have still completely lost all of the land to the Taliban in a matter of time. There are many reasons because of this, but the bigger question here would be, where was the sympathy as the media is talking about all these poor people that were on this plane that fell off and people that were desperate to get out? Where was that same media over the last 4 years to talk about what's going on overseas? They never said a goddamn word about any of it. So fuck the mainstream media and all the bullshit that they spew. They're garbage. And I'm talking about CNN and Fox and NBC, all of them. You know, they didn't cover the important topics. They didn't talk about the soldiers that were getting hurt or the civilians that had died. And all of a sudden they care because it's political and people are interested in it. The same old bullshit. 20 years of civilian casualties. And then we have guys like Ben Shapiro going on Twitter and complaining about Biden, Biden, Biden. Not, hey, thanks for the service of the troops and welcome home. You know, a complete hyperbole that the media always portrays, as well as these commentary people. But the downside of this is we were stupid. We were foolish. Whoever's fault it was, it doesn't matter. This is the way we would have left looking like idiots no matter what. But leaving all of our toys and weapons behind, yeah, that was not a good move. Nice job. And the thing is, you have to realize, if somebody invaded our land and was occupying America, I want to ask anyone out there who calls themselves a patriot, would you ever stop fighting for your land? No. And you know what you would do? You would give your kids guns and you would teach them how to use them, and you would say, shoot the enemy if you see them and you can. You would teach them how to fight back. If America was under attack, it would be some Red Dawn shit, and we all know it. And that's no different over there. They know they can't beat American military strikes, but they know that the minute the U.S. admits they're leaving, they can just walk back in and take their land back. And you think that a military of Afghanis, even though they were 4 times larger, is going to stand up against the Taliban? Because they're guerrillas. They're not dressed in uniforms. Guerrilla warfare has shown itself to be far superior to military combat. If U.S. troops were dressed in turbans, I mean, it would be a different story. But now they have our toys, and the unfortunate fact is that we never had a goal. We never had a plan over there. And let me just put it this way. A lot of you know I was never a Trump fan. I'm still not. Never liked the guy at all. But when he said he was pulling out, I was all for it. And I supported him on that decision. No amount of time would have changed what's going on over there. America should not be sticking our nose in everyone's business, but we all know why we do it. It's that cash. Whether it's oil, minerals, opium supply, which kind of surprised me we were pulling out with all that opium in there, but I'm sure we've still got our hands on it one way or another. But a lot of folks don't realize that the Taliban actually, when they ran Afghanistan, it was illegal to grow opium. It was considered a sin, against the Quran, so therefore they couldn't grow it. They went from being a 5% of the world's supply to being something like 85-90% of the world's supply in 8 years when the U.S. entered. And there are plenty of pictures of U.S. troops guarding poppy fields. So, of course, we needed it for OxyContin. But that's another story as well. So everybody changes their tune, the media, when it suits their agenda and when they can make somebody look bad. But Biden really just finished what everybody else talked about for fucking decades, literal 2 decades. And even though it looks bad now, historically it will have been the right decision to leave there, and leave there quickly. Get the fuck out. The unfortunate fact is that so many people who helped the U.S. were left behind. But let me just tell anybody who's complaining about that how the U.S. policy really works in the world. It's always like that, baby. Everywhere you go, people who help the U.S. are just people who help the U.S. The U.S. military owes nothing to anyone and doesn't care about civilians as far as people think. They're not there to protect. And I'm not talking about individuals, soldiers, generals. A lot of these people truly care about their job and they want to do the right thing. I'm not here to offend the military. I'm talking about the whole of the machine. It's the same way that somebody within a corporation might be a really good person, but the CEO is a douchebag and therefore the whole corporation rolls over everybody else. It's all about the shareholders. For the military, it's no different. A lot of this people don't realize it's just trying out new weaponry and selling it. Israel uses a lot of their new weapons on the strip out there in the Middle East, and they can test out a new weapon, film it, and sell it around the world, and they do. If you've never seen one of these trade shows for missiles and weapons and bullets, you should check one out. Watch a video, watch some footage of how these go down with these suits walking around selling these weapons. We need to get our asses out of every country. Civil wars are going to happen, and the people are going to have to defend themselves. It's the only way. If the U.S. really cared about policy and protecting people, we would be in, some of the worst hit places in Africa to actually protect them. But if there's no resources, we don't go. So they make it about a culture war in America, so we don't pay attention to what's going on out there. And that's just how it is. So the people are being fucked over, lied, and taken advantage of. Soldiers have been for a long time. My father was ruined by the military as far as his psyche was shot. He wrote poems about it. My mom talked about he wouldn't even talk about it. It's like the idea that you're protecting your country, it's a wonderful feeling. But when you really see what's going on and you realize the truth of war, that quickly changes. And that's why I'm grateful I never went into the military. So, thanks for listening. I'll talk to you all next time, and take care of each other. Be well.